I just want us to make sense of everything.
The state is building a cathedral and the church is fixing the prisons. Well, I think it's just the way it is. Wherever you go in the world, if the state does right, then the individuals can put their money to whatever charities they choose. But when the state fails, then individuals who have humanity in them and who have some sense of self-worth and dignity and self-esteem will look after people. I think that's just the way it is. We're all looking after people in our own quiet ways.
That's right.
I mean, people are going to hospital for chemotherapy who we have to help with. I mean, people who are, have children who are ill, who have, crooked legs that need straightening that we have to help with, and everybody's doing their bits. But it saddens you that you have voted for people to come and do something with whatever finances the state has. And people think more of their selfishness and greed than looking after the people that they claim they want to lead. Very, very heartbreaking.
But what has to give? Because it cannot be business as usual. We cannot continue to do the same things and expect different results. So the Ghanaian people queue, vote for a particular person based on the promises the person makes to them, and then the person comes to power, uses the people's resources to fulfill the said promises that were made by him or her. And even when they mess up and they fail, the people have to still pay for the mess.
So whenever I can sleep, I write. And this morning I wrote this. I said, can we encourage honesty and temperance? Can we discourage conflict of interest, selfishness, and greed, especially in those charged to protect the public purse? Can we eliminate corruption, or at least stifle those who are bent on fleecing our nation once they are entrusted with power? The public service broadcaster has a key role to play in all of these, subtle and gentle sometimes, but other times robust and radical modifications of our culture for a truthful, dignified, peaceful, and progressive society. So really, I think it's something to do with our culture as well. Because, people are so fanatic about political party that they are not even thinking of helping the country. They think I have voted this person into power for my political party. He's going to help me get a job because he's from my political party. And if I can get a job for myself and a job for my child, that's enough. The rest of Ghana can go to waste. So really, it's not just the leaders we elect. It's the people who elect the leaders. And the fact that I keep explaining this over and over again, the people we have elected are to be our servant leaders. They are not to be our lords. Because in Akan, we say, they are our parents, our uncles and aunties, and our chiefs. But those we elect are our servants. The reason why we cover them, we give them all the comforts and luxuries in life is because we believe that they will do well by the people.
And constantly we've been disappointed. So what has to change?
And the worst in this particular time, the worst. Because I look at how much we have borrowed and I ask myself, why can't we show what we have done with what we have borrowed? Why can't we declare what we have done with COVID funds? And, this will come down to GTV and their afterthought. It's actually an afterthought because GTV was never able to write to me to say, oh, you can't come here again. But once I mentioned it 2 days ago on Onia TV, immediately they put out a press release to say, actually, yeah, it's an afterthought. GTV has never communicated anything to me. My last program,
yes,
I started doing this Wednesday program in November 2021. And it was regular to the point where even when I went to travel to the UK, I wrote to them because that's the decent thing to do, that I'm going to be away for 3.5 weeks. So, and I wrote this like a month in advance. So you need to find a replacement. And then when I got back, whoever they had put in as the replacement, they put them aside, so I would continue. And I kept critiquing everything. I mean, I remember the roads minister saying something about how we're going to stop the tolls without going through Parliament.
Indeed.
And then later announcing that the toll booths were going to be converted into toilets.
Eventually,
and I said, oh, that's a shame. That's a brain fart. That doesn't sound like something that he thought through. Because how are people going to go into those toilets? Where are they going to walk into those toilets? With all the traffic going, speeding by, are they going to go into hovercrafts and drop into the toilets? So that's a brain fart. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I talked about the stinking conflict of interest of a minister of finance who is a relative of the president, who takes our country to borrow, and every time we borrow and we get into debt, he becomes richer, then all hell broke loose. But I've sent some messages, because I keep messages for business to your producer. And they're there, and you can put them on the screen. Because they were still talking to me, they were still asking me for advice and stuff. In fact, in January, one of the producers was virtually pleading with me to come back on air, and I didn't go.
With you?
Yeah, pleading with me to come back on air at GBC, and I didn't go because my thinking was, at the time when we were getting some momentum to stop the selfishness and greed in leadership, to stop this odious conflict of interest, the minute I spoke about it, pressure was born on you so that I couldn't speak. And then that momentum gradually dissipated. So why in January are you calling me back to speak when there are so many networks I can speak on? So only 2 days ago, as soon as I talked about it, that look, because we talked about your selfishness and greed, you put pressure to bear on GBC to say, oh, you can't have KKD speak there again. Immediately, GBC puts out a press release. Oh, that's not the case. We had already done something because of.
So you see, just for the benefit
so shameful. I look at some political appointees, and they have no shame. No shame. You've been appointed to do a job. You are doing your job. You're a good man. Somebody appointed you. They are putting pressure to bear on you. If you have some balls, you tell them, no, the man has done no wrong because everything he said is true. So he has shown us the figures. The figures state categorically, this is what Oforiatta was borrowing, and this is what he was making. How does that happen? Where in the world does that happen? That the one who is the head of the family, who has a child in the family, who has cancer, who says we need to go and borrow money to take the child to hospital, goes to do a deal and ensures that whenever we borrow money to take the child to hospital for his cancer, he makes money. And we don't want to be outraged, and we don't have people who are wise and truthful and courageous to speak about it. And when I spoke about it, what happened? Parliament picked it up, and it was the first item they talked about in Parliament. So as for GTV, I love them. It is where I started my career. At 15, I wasn't an employee. At the time, I was producing commercials for private at 15. But at 17, I started as a guest artist only on Carla Jiman Bannerman's Solid Black. And at 19, I was fully employed there as a guest artist doing programs. And I became the top presenter there and throughout the nation and the top disc jockey in Africa. The point is, we have work to do. The government must do their work. But so too must the people in media watch the government do their work. When they get it right, we say kudos. But even if we don't say kudos, we pay them too well.
Indeed.
And when they get it wrong, we must tell them. Every one of us is a president in our household. And after we elect somebody to be president, we don't relinquish our positions in our households. And if people make good decisions, we say, well done. If they make bad decisions, like the toll booth thing, I talked about it on GTV. Go back on GTV and check all their programs on Wednesday from November 2021. You will hear KKD criticizing. And nearly every time I was on, I was the one most people were applauding. It's there. Nobody is challenging it.
These are the details of the statement. And just as I mentioned...
As you read, I'll respond to each one.
Yes.
Let's go.
It said, and that's what you see
Shameful
the screens. It says, this is public information. So the management of GBC operators of GTV taking note of a news item purported to be caused by Kwesiche Dakwa, who is with us in the studio, by the way, alleging that the government instructed GBC not to allow him to appear on GTV. If this statement is truly coming from Kwesiche Dakwa, it is coming from you, correct?
It is, of course.
They say that if it is truly coming from you, it would be unfortunate.
And a figment.
The claim is not true and can only be a product of your imagination.
Good.
Management of GBC wishes to put it on record that the corporation does not take instructions from the government.
Please.
When it comes to content production. You doubt that?
Please.
That's what the management
Please,
says.
we've had family run this country for some 19 years. We've had people in positions of authority. And let me tell you something. When people in government offices, whether there's a messenger of people in the presidency or whatever, give instructions to people, they don't send memos. They just make phone calls or send text messages. They want to do things that you cannot find out. Because truly, if it is not somebody who put pressure to bear on you, then who? Because it is the government that appoints you. And since the day I spoke about the Oforiata stinking conflict of interest, till now, I haven't gone on GBC. But their staff have invited me, which means they haven't even had the decency, right, to even say in a memo to producers and heads of programs that, our dear senior colleague, Kwesiche Dakwa, will no longer. They've never done that. Because if they'd had, and we want to put those on TV, why would their producers still be inviting me to appear there to help lift their ratings?
There's a part of the statement that is quite interesting. It says, put it back on the screen for me, please, would you?
Please.
It says, management is fully aware that it will be unlawful for government to determine who comes on our programs and platforms. GBC is guided by the ethics of public service broadcasting journalism.
That is wrong, and I'll tell you why. On one occasion, I watched as a program was cut short so that a minister could come over to try and explain something to do with their government policy. So if you say that the government cannot determine who comes on a program, when a minister has come over to disrupt a scheduled program, right? A scheduled program, that is government determining who comes on. So when they are writing this poppycock, they must understand that they are dealing with senior people in the work they are doing. I could be the Director General 10 years ago.
They do not allow their guests to make allegations against other persons who are not present.
Those are not allegations.
Or do not have the immediate opportunity to respond.
Alfred, when you have a minister, a finance minister, who borrows, and the figures are there, it's not allegations. It's there for all to see. Why is it that is what we have discussed in this country since the day I put it out? It's not an allegation. It's the truth. And what has happened is that a political appointee has chosen the side of stinking selfishness and greed over truth that is uncovered for the nation to learn and do better.
So, in fact, the last but one, and I make specific references to this GBC statement for a reason, because obviously they need to be heard as well.
Yeah, of course.
And it says they provide opportunities to panelists of all political persuasions to speak on their platforms and may retire them when there is a change in the content plan. So that's what they want.
That is crap. But I'll tell you why that's crap. They haven't changed their synopsis. They haven't changed their synopsis.
They are retiring you
it's funny. You should look.
You should put a change in content.
Put some of the text messages on screen. The presenter congratulated me the day after the program. All their team congratulated me after the program. Go online and see their own comments. Somebody also ordered them to delete that program. Why wouldn't they delete the program when other people have been spoken about? But when a Minister of Finance is spoken about who is doing wrong by the nation, you think nobody should talk about it?
See, and
how is that?
This comes up, I say that, Parliament established this committee, the 8-member committee, to look into all of these allegations.
You see,
they came out and,
Alfred,
they
do you know
didn't find
why the timing?
anything
No. It's still on. It's still on.
So that commission that was set up, in fact, that 8-member committee, that was set up by Parliament.
It's a banana republic. It's a banana republic.
Against Ken Ofori-Atta.
Oh my God, this nation of ours. So really, you haven't changed the synopsis of your program. Look, my master's degree is in film and television production. I understand this enterprise better than most people at GBC today. I've had colleagues who have been there who are also brilliant at this, like David Ampofo, like Johnny, who became the director of TV, who's gone away. But the point is, I'm speaking about this not because of me, because I can go on social media and reach more people than I can on GBC. But I'm speaking about this because if we don't let it be known, we don't know who it will happen next to. After all, when I didn't go to GBC on that day, I went to Joy, and they got the highest viewership since they started when I went there. And then I came to Onia, and Captain got his highest viewership when I came there on that day. He has beaten that now because I came again, and on that day Shatawale came, and we got an even higher viewership. So if it's about reach, it's not about GBC. I have a certain love for GBC because that is where I cut my teeth as a broadcaster. But if we are going to just appoint people who are going to act as though they were supine or spineless, then we will get to a point where we'll be repressing speech and we will have no freedom of speech. Because as for me, I will speak loudly about corruption. I don't know who is also going to speak loudly about extortion. And then that person too will be silenced. That is why I'm speaking. It's not for KKD. KKD will always speak truth. And I can speak this truth because I have never taken a bribe in my life.
You've never taken a bribe in your life?
All my life.
How do I get to know this?
Exactly. So you can check from everybody I have worked with and everywhere I've worked and ask every client who has worked with me or come to me. You know, people must... I don't drink, I don't smoke. You can easily get to know that too. You understand? So my point is, there are certain things that people want to say that they cannot say. Because like the Ashantis will say, they themselves have gone to take contracts which are criminal. So they can't talk about it.
King Kwesi Che Dakwa.
Oh,
Thank
GBC.
you for coming.
I am so sad because the professor there is a good man. Doctor, but the point is, pressure than also. And I don't need them. And they never told me they have stopped me.
We don't know.
Let's
look at the citizen of the week. Our citizen of the week. Our citizen of the week is Christian Achu.
Oh, of course. Well deserved.
His impact, his love for humanity, and for supporting the underprivileged in society. That's Christian Achu, our citizen of the week. May his soul continue to rest in perfect peace. King Kwesi Che Dakwa, thank you for coming.
My brother.
And also to you. Bill Eshen. Bill, thank you as always and for the great stuff that you're doing and telling the story of Christian Achu in the best way possible. Appreciate it. And thank you as well for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join me tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for Key Point. I am Alfred Akansi. Have a good night.